Hello, my name is Tony Bonning and I'm an author and storyteller. Now in 1790, Robert Burns met a man called Francis Grose, who was travelling Scotland doing etchings of castles for a book that he was doing called The Antiquities of Scotland. Now it just so happened that he was going up to Greenan Castle to do an etching, and Burns said to him, "Why don't you do the old kirk at Galloway?" Now, the idea of doing a kirk when he was actually doing castles probably didn't go down too well with him, but Burns was astute enough to say it's haunted. And this got his interest. And he said, "Well, I will do a drawing of the kirk if you will do one thing for me, and that is provide me with a poem to go with it." Burns agreed to this, and of course Francis Grose said, "Well, look, send me 3 ideas and I'll choose one and you could do the poem for that." Now, 2 of the stories are in this book here, the Folktales of Ayrshire, which I've written myself. And the other tale is in my Folktales of Dumfries and Galloway. And that is the story I'm going to be telling you in just a moment. But just to say that Burns heard this particular story in the castle at Kenmure in the Glen Kens of Galloway, near New Galloway and Dalry. Now that's not the Ayrshire Dalry, of course, it's the Galloway Dalry. And the story in particular is set in Dalry, and I'm going to tell you this story in just a moment. In St John's town of Dalry in Galloway, sometimes known as the Clachan, there was a pub called the Clachan Inn, and the owner of that was called Lucky Hare. Now, Lucky because she was what they call a howdy or a midwife, and Hare because some people said that she was a witch, and it was known that witches, of course, transformed into hares, and I'm talking about rabbits, hares. Anyway, if you come out of the Clachan Inn and you go down the brae, you go past an old kirk. You pass a new kirk as well, but you go past the old kirk and you go down onto the Hawk, which is the flat land beside the river, and if you cross over the Hawk, you'll come to where there was a ford previously. If you were able to cross that ford, you would come to Glenlee, and if you travelled up Glenlee, up the Carrick burn, you would come to Knocksheen, which means the Hill of the Fairies, and at Knocksheen lived a man called Adam Forrester. Now, Adam Forrester of an evening enjoyed the delights of the Clachan Inn. He would ride down the Carrick burn, cross the ford, cross the Hawk, up past the kirk, up to the Clachan Inn. He would tie his horse to a ring at the door, open up the door and say, "Lucky here, it's your lucky night. Adam is here, gives a kiss." And she would usually say, "No, I'm not kissing a stinky, smelly old farmer." "All right, well, give me a whiskey and a beer." And you have a whiskey and a beer and a beer and a whiskey and a whiskey and a beer until he was roaring drunk foo. Then he would stagger out to his old nag and climb onto it. Now, in those days, he climbed on back to front because that meant he could have a nice cushion to sleep on as the horse knew its way home. Anyway, it was a Friday night when Adam Forrester got on his nag. He rode down the Carrick burn, he crossed the ford, crossed the Hawk, say it properly, over the Hawk, up past the kirk and up to the Clachan Inn. And he tied his horse to the ring at the door. Opened up the door and said, "Lucky here, it's your lucky night, gives a kiss." And she said, "No." "All right, give me a whiskey and a beer." And she said, "No." "How no?" She said, "I'm going out." "Where are you going?" "None of your business." "All right, fine. Away you go. Cheerio." "Jimmy, give me a whiskey and a beer and a beer and a whiskey." And of course he got himself roaring drunk foo again. He was so drunk that when he went out to the horse, he got on the wrong way around, he was facing for it. Anyway, when down the hill, he said, "Oh, never mind, I'll enjoy it's a minlich night, I'll be fine." Anyway, he's going down the brae past the kirk when he hears music. "What's that?" "Bagpipes." "Oh, must be a ceilidh." Oh, and he notices the connel burning in the winnock, the candle burning in the window. So he gets off the horse, ties it to a bus, not a double-decker bus, a bush. Tied it to a bus, and he staggered out to the windy. And he kicked it in, and there was Lucky Hare dancing all like, and I go, "Oh, it's a ceilidh, Lucky Hare, oh, what a bonny lass she is, aye. Oh, and he stopped it because there was old Joke and old Jean. They're in their 90s, and they're dancing all like teenagers. And he went, "Oh, they're witches. It's the witches' coven. Oh, it's the witches' Sabbath." And then he started to see them. The beasties, the bogles, the gaisties, the wraiths, the deals, the carlins, and in the corner, old Crooty, old Horny, the deal himself, playing away on the bagpipes, and they're all dancing. He goes, oh no. Oh, but there's like, you'll no deny it now, Lucky here. You're a carlin. Oh, come on, gives a kiss. Uh-oh, because all of a sudden, the lights went out. And the door opened up, and out they came. The beasts, the bogles, the gaisties, the wraiths, the deals, the carlins, the witches, and the deal himself, saying, we're going to get you, Adam Forrester. We're going to stick a big fork in your bahookie and stick you in the fires of hell. He says, no. He ran for the horse, he leapt on the horse, and for the first time in his life he gave a great skilp. And the horse was such a fright, headed towards the river, fast as it could, galloping away, but they were getting closer and closer and closer and closer. So he gave it another skilp. It was such a skilp that the horse leapt right over the river to the other side. And he turned round and he went, ha 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 ha, you can't catch me for a wee bumbee, I'm safe now, ha ha ha. But then they went down the river to New Galloway, fast as can be. And down there was a new brig, and they went out of the brig. You weren't expecting that, were you? Well, neither was he. Oh no, what am I going to do? He skipped the horse again, and he took a better tacker, a shortcut, over Waterside Hill. Well, he began to ride up the hill, but it was an old nag and it was a bit slow. And Lucky here managed to catch up. She grabbed its tail and she whacked it in the backside and left a handprint that was there for the rest of its life. As for the tail, she pulled it off, and the horse, getting such a fright, loped to the top of the hill. But oh, the myrmidons of hell surrounded it. And they started coming up saying, we're going to get you, we're going to get you. Oh, what am I going to do? And then he thought. He leapt off the horse and he put his sword out. And they went, ha, that'll do you no good against the deal here. And he says, aye, it will. And he stuck the sword in the ground. And he grabbed the blade, so tight that his fingers bled. And he cut a circle all the way round about himself and the horse. And he said, God's curse on any beast, bogle, gaisty, wraith, deal, carlin, or the like that dares to pass God's holy circle of steel. And all night they went round that holy circle trying to get in. But they couldn't get in until finally, cock-a-doodle-doo, and the sun came up, the ground opened up, and they all disappeared down into hell. They couldn't attack Adam Forrester, so instead they took Lucky Hare, never seen again. As for Adam Forrester, well, he rode home to his own house. Outside his door was the rowan tree, and he kent that would keep him safe. But as well as that, he never touched another drap of drink. So, take advice. Dinna touch it. At least, dinna attack too much, because if you do, you'll end up seeing beasties, bogles, gaisties, wraiths, deals, carlins, and the like, and maybe the deal himself. Ah!